Pavement Preservation 101, Theory, Candidates, and Treatments. So what is pavement preservation? It's simple. It's keeping the good roads good. Example on the left is a chip seal going down for a county road. And on the right, we have a fog seal being placed on an overlay that's been down 5 years. Here are examples of what pavement preservation is not. These are not good candidates for a preservation treatment. The philosophy is simple. It's picking the right treatment on the right pavement at the right time. This slide shows the concept of pavement preservation. When a road is first built or at 100 PCI, there's two ways to address it. You either let the road run the course of its life until it hits the rehabilitation trigger. Then you spend a considerable amount of money to bring that road back up. With pavement preservation, as that road starts to deteriorate, you hit it before it hits that preventative trigger, which is usually around the 60 to 55 PCI range. Spending cents and dollars on treatments like fog seals, chip seals, and slurries to bring that road back up and extend the life of the pavement. This slide shows the asphalt deterioration curve. As your road starts to deteriorate or the PCI starts to go down, on the right are the different tools that you can apply to address your roadway. If that doesn't convince you, this should. Let's put an example together. Let's say that your city or county has 300 lane miles of road and you have a budget of 1.5 million to do pavement reconstruction, rehab, and maintenance. And your typical breakdown is 1 million for reconstruction and rehab, or worst first scenario, and 500 for maintenance. So what do you get for that 1.5 million? At reconstruction, doing a 6-inch mill and fill at $25 per square yard, that $1 million gets you 5.7 lane miles. Doing a maintenance treatment or preservation treatment with that $500,000 at a $4 square yard treatment gets you about 17.8 lane miles, totaling 23.5, and your road cycle now for that 300 miles is 13 years, meaning the next time that you'll come back to that roadway to address it will be 13 years later. So what if you flop that budget around, putting 1 million into maintenance and 500,000 into reconstruction or rehab? At $25 a square yard, with that 500,000, you're getting about 2.8 lane miles as opposed to that 5.7. Not a huge difference. Putting that $1 million into a $4 square yard treatment gets you 35.5 lane miles as opposed to 23.5. A pretty big difference. And your total lane miles repaired now are 38. Most importantly, your road cycle for that 300 lane miles is now cut down to 8 years, which means you can come back to that roadway and probably address it with another maintenance treatment, extending the life of that road. Here we have a case study, City of Novato and Marin County. In 2005, they adopted a preservation plan using PMRE cape seals as their method, the chip seal followed by a slurry, and started to implement it every single year. As you can see on the graph on the right, every year their PCI started to go up. When I last met with the City of Novato, they were done. They had addressed every single one of their preservation streets and were ahead of their payment cycle, and that gave them the flexibility to start putting their money towards ADA and their worst streets to overlay. Keys to success for a preservation plan: City Council support from the council members, the public works directors, and down. Public education, understanding, and acceptance. As we all know, residents are paving and overlay experts. And when they see something that's not an overlay, there's no understanding about it. But once you start doing preservation and they see their streets start to turn black and the striping on it and their streets look beautiful, the acceptance part comes in. Dedicated and continuous funding. As I mentioned earlier, Preservation plan every year, or at least every other year, is the way to have a successful plan and to really raise your PCI. Good products and workmanship. Testing materials and inspecting your project. You get what you inspect. Contractor relationship. Go hand in hand with good products and workmanship, and it's important to have a good contractor relationship and be out there inspecting, make sure you're getting what you paid for. And in-house training, what we're all doing today. So to recap, why pavement preservation? To keep the good pavements in good condition. It corrects minor surface deficiencies, preserves the pavement system, retards water intrusion and future deterioration, and maintains or improves the functional condition of the pavement system. And at the end of the day, saves budget dollars. Next, I'm going to go over the pavement preservation treatments, real briefly and generally. After the presentation, if you have more detailed questions, please feel free to call or email me, and I'd be happy to help. So these are the treatments I'm going to be talking about today, and I put them in order as you would see or use in your pavement preservation toolbox, starting with crack seal, fog and rejuvenating seals, chip seals, cold applied and hot applied, slurry and micros, and multi-layer lifts, cape seals, 2-layer micros, 3-layer system, and the thin lift bottom wearing course. Here are some general costs of the preservation treatments. Obviously, this all depends on size of project. The larger the project, the smaller the unit cost. Most importantly, what does life depend on? Pavement condition, traffic, weather, quality of application, etc. Crack fill is the first line of defense in the preservation toolbox. Doing your prep work and crack fill prior to a preservation treatment ensures the durability and performance of preservation treatments. Fog and rejuvenating seals. Some of the benefits of using fog seals are renewing aged asphalts, sealing small voids and surface cracks, improving lane delineation and pavement markings, prevent raveling of loose aggregate with chip seals, and prevents water penetration. Some of the materials that are used are CSS1H, CQS1H, PMRE. Materials need to be diluted. In this picture, we have the city of Napa applying a fog seal on an overlay that was done 5 to 7 years prior. The city came in with their own crews and put down the crack fill, and now the contractor's applying the fog seal. The important thing to look is on the right is as an inspector, the quality of the spreader driver, staying away from the concrete curb and applying at an even rate to have even coverage around the roadway. Things to look for on a fog seal application. On the left, when all the nozzles are in the same angle and the nozzles are all clean, you get nice, even application across your roadway. When the nozzles are either plugged or at different angles, the application will not be applied evenly, or even in some areas, not at all. This is what you should be seeing, a nice, even application of emulsion. Slurry and microsurfacing. Some of the benefits of slurry seal are improved surface friction course or skid resistance because there is aggregate mixed in with the emulsion. It seals small voids and surface cracks, improves lane delineation and pavement markings, prevents water penetration, and can be part of a cape seal, slurry seal over a chip. Slurry can only be applied at a 1 stone thickness. The largest stone bears the traffic load. Microsurfacing is a chemically driven emulsion which can reduce traffic delays to less than 1 hour, as opposed to a slurry seal that needs ambient temperatures to cure. Improves surface friction course, seals small voids and surface cracks, improves lane delineation and pavement markings, can be constructed in the day or night because of the chemicals in it, can rut fill and reprofile, and prevents water penetration. Because of the chemical additives in microsurfacing, it can be applied in a multi-stone thickness. Stone interlock and modified binder bears traffic load and may be applied in multiple layers. There are 3 types of slurry aggregates. Type 1, which is the smallest stone, typically applied in parking lots or bike trails. Type 2, which is the most common and usually used by agencies for residential. And Type 3, the largest of the aggregates, usually used as a leveling course. The equipment you'll see are either a truck-mounted mixer, which is the most common for residential areas, a continuous self-loading mixer, which is primarily used on highways. Here's an example of a crew applying slurry seal. As you can see, the emulsion coming out of the back of the truck is brown in color. As the water starts to evaporate from the emulsion, you're left with the asphalt. This is what you should be seeing on a typical slurry seal project. With that being said, here's an example of a slurry with the two top pictures going down. Once the product cured, it was nice and black and the contractor left town. A month later, as the picture shows down below, we had some failed areas where slurry was raveling off. With every product, you should be testing and inspecting, but none more so than a slurry or a micro. What's going on here? Drag marks. What causes this? Could be several different things. One of which, a dirty box in the back of the truck with some aggregate or material that is cured stuck in the box could leave you drag marks. Or at the stockpile, if the guy loading the aggregate picked up some virgin material and put it into the truck. Once again, you get what you inspect. Here we have a bad joint. Two different trucks putting down the same type of material. What's important to point out here is calibration of each truck, and once again, drag marks or a dirty box. So inspection, once again, is very important. This is what your project should be looking like. Out of the box, nice and clean, brown in color with no drag marks, and the finished product on the left, nice and black. In areas where you have curb and gutter, staying away from the concrete. When the right candidate is picked and all the inspection and construction is done, micro and slurries are a great preservation tool. Chip seals. Chip seals consist of asphalt emulsions, asphalt rubber binder, or terminal blend binders, followed by a single layer of aggregate. Chip seals can consist of multiple layers, single and double chips, and are typically followed with a fog seal. Chip seals can also be covered with a slurry or micro, thereby creating a cape seal. The benefits: renews aged asphalts, improves surf and friction course, seals small voids and surface cracks, improves lane delineation and pavement markings, prevents rattling of loose aggregate with chip seals, and prevents water penetration. If you notice, all of these are called seals for a reason, because that's what we're doing. We're sealing the road. There are two types of chip seals. Emulsion chip seals are usually applied at 0.25 to 0.4 of a gallon per square yard binder, or hot applied chip seals, asphalt rubber, which are field blend or terminal blend, which are usually applied at 3,500 to 0.6 of a gallon a square yard of binder. Typical chip seal gradations are 3/8, 5/16, and 1/4 inch. And some agencies using a large aggregate 1/2 inch. Here are some examples of some chip seals. Let's start with the picture on the left. Does anybody see anything wrong with it? The dust, dirty aggregate. And secondly, if you look down, it's not covering the full roadway. So not an even application of aggregate. Top right, you had a county that did the chip seal and a county that didn't do the chip seal, so you can see the pre-existing roadway and how it turned out. Bottom right is just an example of a terminal blend chip seal. When done right, looks like an asphalt overlay. Here's what your chip seal should look like. As we talked about earlier, on the spreader truck, a nice even application of emulsion or triple overlap. And if you look at the chipper, nice application of the aggregate and nice wet and clean aggregate. Here's an example of what you should not be seeing on your chip seal. Back to the spreader driver and not having even application, that's your result. You get what you inspect. Here's another important factor to consider when you're out on a job. The chipper should be pretty close behind the spreader truck. You want that aggregate right on top of that oil as it starts to cure to give you the best performance and durability of the chip seal. Directly behind the chipper are the rollers. You want the rollers evenly spread out and really embedding the aggregate into the oil or the mat. This is a picture of the city of Berkeley applying an asphalt rubber chip seal with a hot applied binder, and the aggregate is pre-coated. And as you can see, the city did all their prep work prior to the preservation treatment going down. And here's a picture of an asphalt rubber distributor truck applying an asphalt rubber chip seal. When done right, it's hard to tell the difference between a chip seal and an overlay. You know which one is a chip seal and which one's the open grade? This is our chip seal right here. If you got it, good job. Scrub seals. So what is a scrub seal? A scrub seal is a chip seal that has brooms on the back of the distributor truck that push the emulsion in a wave into cracks. This allows an agency to eliminate the use of crack fill on smaller cracks and save money by using the brooms and pushing the emulsion into the cracks. Here's a video of Sierra Nevada using the PMRE scrub seal. You can see the crack. The distributor truck is going to go by, apply the emulsion, and the brooms are going to broom the material right into that crack. Followed by the chipper. And covering the crack. Here's a picture of that same roadway about 3 years later. The picture on the top was an adjacent street that was not scrub sealed. You can see the crack had penetrated through and water is being able to go down. And the pictures on the bottom are where the PMRE scrub seal went and the water is not able to get down, just like crack fill, because of the brooms pushing the material down into the crack. Bonded wearing course. What is bonded wearing course? It's a maintenance technique that combines the best of two technologies. It's part chip seal and part hot mix overlay. From the chip seal, the specialized spray paver applies 1,400 to 2,500 of a gallon a square yard of polymer modified emulsion for adhesion, bonding the new surface to the old surface. And from the hot mix side, it uses hot mix, which improves ride quality, has a quick return to traffic, and no sweeping or fog sealing needed. BWC uses gap or open graded mix with polymer or rubberized HMA. If you have a rut, you're able to adjust the screed just like a paving operation to give you a nice, even, smooth ride. This is the equipment that you would see on a bonded wearing course. Specialized paver that has a spray bar on it. The hot mix is fed in by an MTV. BWC uses polymer modified or rubber tack coat, polymer modified or rubber binder for the asphalt, and only gap or open graded aggregates. Here's the process. As the paver goes by, emulsion's laid down, use a 3/8 gap graded or open graded mix. because it has voids. With so much emulsion being put down, like a chip seal, the emulsion is able to wick through the voids and create the bond for the bonded wearing course, creating a strong, thin lift mat. The BWD construction is just like a paving operation. Your application rate, as mentioned, is 1,400 to 2,500 a gallon per square yard. Typical thickness is 3/4 of an inch to an inch. And your rolling finishing methods are 2 coverages with a minimum of 2 rollers in static mode. Here's BWC in place. Candidates for BWC are highways, collectors, and arterials. It is a maintenance treatment, so there is no density and compatching spec. It has to go on a good road. Lastly, we're going to talk about multi-layer lifts. 2-layer systems like crack seal with any preservation treatment over the top of it, fog over chip, scrub seals, cape seals, a type 2 micro over a type 3 micro, and 3-layer systems, which is a micro asphalt rubber chip seal with a type 2 wearing course. Let's start with the quiz first. What would you do here? Is this a multi-layer candidate or a rehab? Put your answers over on the right in the chat and we'll come back to this. Now let's talk about multi-layer lifts. As mentioned before, really crack seal with any type of preservation treatment over the top of it is a form of 2-layer system. Fog seal over chip seal, which is a great process. Doing an emulsion chip seal and covering it with a fog seal. Gives you 2 advantages. It locks down the chip seal or any loose aggregate and makes it nice and black. So when you put your pavement markings on, not only does it increase safety by residents being able to see the striping and paving markings, but it makes it nice and beautiful. A double micro, type 2 over a type 3. The city of San Francisco uses this every single year as their main pavement preservation tool. The first step, as with any other pavement preservation treatment, is to do all your prep work and patching prior to the project. Next, the city comes and applies a type 3 micro surfacing, which improves the ride, fixes surface deficiencies, and has rut filling capabilities because of the size of the aggregate and the micro surfacing. The final step is the wearing course, type 2 micro surfacing, which gives you a finished surface, smooth ride, and is a quick application because of the chemistry. Cape seals, emulsion and asphalt rubber. As mentioned previously, a cape seal is a chip seal followed by a slurry or a micro. Here's an example of a hot applied chip seal or asphalt rubber covered by a micro. As you can see, the chip seal has voids in the mat and the slurry or micro fill in those voids to give a nice smooth ride. Here's an example of a cape seal operation, City of Santa Cruz. Asphalt rubber chip seal is the first lift, type 2 slurry is the second lift. One of the advantages of using a rubber chip seal is you can put it over a more distressed roadway. Because the amount of binder and the rubber properties, it gives you a longer term preservation application. Combined with the micro surfaces, the finished product provides a smooth ride and extends the pavement life. All right, do we remember the quiz? Let's see what the answer is. This is absolutely a reconstruction road. But the scenario that the agency was in is they had run out of funds to address the road in the proper way and needed a solution. So what the contractor decided to do is go over it with a type 3 micro to try to glue all those pieces together that were kind of loose. Kind of like when you finish a puzzle and you put that glue over the top of it to lock everything down. The second step was to apply an emulsion chip seal. To save money, the county used their own forces and hired a spreader company to come in and apply the oil, and they put down the chip seal. Lastly, it was covered by a Type 2 slurry seal as the wearing course. Our finished product turned out pretty good. This is actually a picture 2 years later of the roadway. Micro, chip, slurry. Glued together, sealed, with a wearing surface. No single treatment could have worked by itself, so multi-layers work. Thank you so much for attending the webinar. And if you have any questions or roadways that you would like me to look at or help out with, I'd be happy to. Below is my contact information, caesar.lauer@talleyoil.com with my phone number. Thanks.